The finalists have been announced for several of college football's biggest awards. The Jim Thorpe Award, which is normally awarded to the top defensive back in the nation, is not going to go to the best DB in college football this year. And you might be asking yourself, JT, how is the Jim Thorpe Award, which is supposed to honor the best defensive back in college football, not going to be won by the best DB? Well, I'll tell you why, because Travis Hunter is not a finalist for it. Malachi Starks, Caleb Downs, and Jahdae Barron are the three finalists to take home Defensive Back of the Year. Travis Hunter is nowhere to be found on the finalist list. And it's surprising because Travis Hunter has better stats than all of these guys. 3 interceptions, 1 forced fumble, 9 pass deflections, and 30 tackles. Meanwhile, Malachi Starks only has 2 pass breakups and 1 INT. Caleb Downs only has 3 pass breakups, no interceptions. And Jahdae Barron, he has 4 interceptions, 8 pass deflections. So he has numbers that are good enough to be a finalist along with Travis Hunter. But I easily could remove Caleb Downs and replace him with Travis Hunter, or remove Malachi Starks and replace him with Travis Hunter, and this list will make sense. It makes no sense to give away the award that is supposed to honor the best defensive back in college football, but yet the best DB in college football is not even a finalist for this award. Like, there is no argument that this is one of the biggest snubs this year, because Travis Hunter, when you watch Colorado play, he not only is a shutdown corner, but he also has been their best playmaker on the defense side of football. Remember against Baylor when he forced that fumble to win that game? I mean, that's just Travis Hunter just being an all-around great player. And as good as what Caleb Downs and Malachi Starks are, this is still a stat-driven award. And they don't have the stats that compare to what Travis Hunter has done with Colorado this season. I don't know what the voters for the Jim Thorpe Award are thinking, but it's just insanity how the best defensive back in college football is not a finalist for this award. Another big snub that really upset me was Tennessee running back Dylan Sampson not being named a finalist for the Doak Walker Award, which goes to the best running back in college football. He had 1,307 rushing yards, which leads the SEC. He leads the SEC in touchdowns with 22, and he's averaging 5.7 yards per carry. And he's had 9 games with 100 yards or more on the ground, and yet he's not a finalist at all. Now, this one is a little bit more trickier than the Travis Hunter snub, because Ashton Jeanty definitely deserves to be a finalist. And then Amarian Hampton from North Carolina has over 1,400 rushing yards, 14 touchdowns, 5.7 yards per carry. He's been a really good back. He's going to be a high pick in the draft next year if he comes out. Caleb Johnson for Iowa, he also has been really good. He pretty much has been Iowa's offense this year. 21 touchdowns, nearly 1,500 yards on the ground, 6.7 yards per carry. This definitely is a hard list to make if you're any voter for this award, but I think that you got to put Dylan Sampson over Amarian Hampton. I mean, Dylan Sampson plays in the SEC, the toughest conference in college football, and he's carried Tennessee. And Tennessee wouldn't be a playoff team if it wasn't for Dylan Sampson. He kind of has been the unsung hero of their season. With Nico Iamaleava kind of being up and down this year, he's been the consistent part of their offense that when they give him the football, he's automatic offense for them. He's been their most reliable player all season, and he leads Tennessee all time in rushing touchdowns, and a lot of the other stats that he's put up as far as rushing yards, yards per game, yards per carry, he's broken records that has been held in Tennessee football history for over the last 2-3 decades. So what Dylan Sampson has done this season for Tennessee, I think deserves to be recognized. And if you have to swap him with somebody on this list, I would swap him with Amarian Hampton, just because, listen, I think that stats do have to matter, but also your individual contribution to a team's success, if they make it to the postseason, has to count as well. And Tennessee wouldn't be a playoff team if they didn't have Dylan Sampson. If, let's say, you are against swapping Dylan Sampson with anybody that's on this list. You mean to tell me that there only has to be 3 finalists? Why can't there be 4? Because all 4 of these guys deserve to be in the running for this award. I'm not denying that. But to just leave Dylan Sampson off this list, the best running back in the toughest conference in college football, it's just insanity at its highest peak. Because Dylan Sampson, this dude is a monster. And I've watched a lot of Tennessee this year, and let me tell you something. You take Dylan Sampson off this year's Tennessee team, they probably aren't in the running to make it to the playoffs. So I think it was egregious how Dylan Sampson got snubbed for this award because he's been the best running back in the SEC all season long. And the snub that had me the most upset, more than Travis Hunter not being a finalist for the Jim Thorpe and Dylan Sampson not being a finalist for the Doak Walker, was the Maxwell Award. Now, the Maxwell Award is somewhat a similar version of what the Heisman Trophy is. It's supposed to go to whoever is the player of the year. And the 3 finalists for this award are Ashton Jeanty, understandable, best running back in college football, finalist for the Heisman. Okay, Travis Hunter, finalist for the Heisman as well. Dylan Gabriel is on this list. And Dylan Gabriel has been really fantastic this year. 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He's thrown for 3,061 passing yards. But the problem with Dylan Gabriel isn't that he's not a good quarterback. It's just that he's not the best quarterback. The best quarterback in college football this year plays for the University of Miami. Some of y'all may not know of him. ESPN apparently doesn't know of him as well because they left him off their Heisman watch list a few weeks ago. But Cam Ward leads the nation in passing yards with 3,774, and passing touchdowns with 34, and quarterback rating. He has 12 more touchdowns this season than what Dylan Gabriel has, and Dylan Gabriel is playing on arguably the most stacked roster in all of college football. Meanwhile, Cam Ward has single-handedly resurrected the University of Miami. I've been a Miami fan since I first started watching college football. I am 22 years old, by the way. I became a Miami fan at the age of 10. And this is the best season I've ever been alive to witness being a fan of this program. And 95% of it is due to how great Cam Ward has been. Cam Ward has single-handedly carried Miami on his back this year because when he plays bad, this is a mid-football team. And I'm really intrigued to see how good Miami's going to be once Cam Ward is gone. Cam Ward is a generational quarterback. Not very often do you single-handedly get a player like Cam Ward who can come into your program and resurrect it from the pits of irrelevancy. Leaving Cam Ward off the finalist list for the Maxwell Award is all-time blasphemy. All-time blasphemy. Dylan Gabriel is not carrying Oregon like how Cam Ward has carried the University of Miami this year. Like, well, what are we talking about? The stats show that Cam Ward has been better than Dylan Gabriel. The performances speak for themselves. He's going to be a Heisman finalist. What kind of sense does this make? Why do people in the media continue to hate on the University of Miami? For a team and a program that's been so irrelevant over these last 2 decades, people sure do have an agenda against this squad. There is no way that you can justify Dylan Gabriel being the finalist for the Maxwell Award over Cam Ward. Are we watching the same games? Who is allowed to vote on these awards? Because they need to redo their voting system and actually allow people to vote on these awards who actually watch the damn games. Because it seems like these voters are not watching the same football that me and you are watching. Now, eye test will show, the stats will show that Cam Ward has been better than Dylan Gabriel. Hell, if you were to ask Oregon fans who they rather would have, Dylan Gabriel or Cam Ward, if they're being unbiased, they would tell you Cam Ward. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? There is no justification for Dylan Gabriel being a finalist for this award over Cam Ward. He's not even the best quarterback in college football. Cam Ward is. This shows that Miami is the most hated program in college football still. People still can't get over that bitter taste in their mouths when Miami was kicking their you know what in the early 2000s and the 80s and the 90s, and people just try to use anything they can to take some shots at Miami, and leaving Cam Ward off the finalists for the Maxwell was one of those shots that people were taking to get back at Miami to show their disdain for this program. Cam Ward deserves to be a finalist for this award over Dylan Gabriel. This is just insanity to me. Absolutely insanity.